right, Jules, sticking with this Croatia theme.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to digress because it's summer, so I can digress.
Of course you can.
All right. Croatia's a small country.
Yeah.
I used to know what the population was.
4.5 million, maybe?
It is something like that,
yeah.
right? So basically 4.5 million, for those who don't know, I'm assuming is like the population of what, Cleveland? Or is the, it's the population, it's like a third of Paris, right?
Yeah.
These guys produce so many ridiculous athletes, not just in football, obviously, in basketball as well, historically.
Yeah.
They've done it in tennis. And I have to say, their guys next door
Yeah,
in
they've got a few
Serbia
small,
also
yeah,
do
pretty
some,
good.
also produce.
Yeah.
How do they punch so far above their weight? Because I've heard genetic theories. I've heard that they have like the longest, strongest tibias per capita of anywhere in Europe.
Really?
But like, yeah, no, but how is it?
I mean, I think Luka Modric is a generational talent that you would have every 25 years for a country like that, maybe even more. So that's an exception in itself. I think for the rest, I don't think we can.
Sorry, can I just say about Modric? You say that about Modric, right? But then they had a generational talent. They've had multiple generational talents in the generation before.
Yeah, true.
So because it's not just
none of
Modric,
them
they
won the
also
Ballon
produced Prosinecki.
Yeah, Schuker, Prosinecki, Asanovic, but none of them won the Ballon d'Or. None of them won 5 Champions League either.
Suker.
Yeah. No, but you know what I mean? Modric is, I think, still Modric is the greatest player they've ever had. But for the rest, for that 98 generation, or even for this one with Kovacic and Paris, I think the grassroots level and the academies, and especially Dinamo Zagreb, you saw Sutalo again doing really well in the 2 games, the semi-final and the final, and at some point he's going to go, surely will leave Croatia to go somewhere else. But they've got this, I think, really good work ethics at youth level, and producing those young players who, because of the level of their leagues, it's easier to put into first team that can play a lot of football when they're really young, and then maybe go abroad to one of the big 5 leagues or one of the big 6 leagues or whatever. I think that helps them massively. But it still defies the odds to have this kind of generation for such a small country.
This is still one of those things that I'm just fascinated by because it's the ultimate nature-nurture thing, right? So you can do the nurture part, right?
Yeah.
But then numbers matter too. What creates, I mean, this is almost like philosophical, what creates these great athletes? And I'll grant you, Modric may be entirely random, right? The skill set that he has, and then he's helped by the fact that because the infrastructure is there, because the nurture part is there, he can express it, he can play against better competition. If Luka Modric had been born in Boise, Idaho, who would he have played football against? And would he have become Luka Modric? Probably not,
no.
Right?
I agree with you. But then look, we talked about Serbia before, saying how good they were at producing great talent, great athletes, etc. Their team is very good. This generation is very. We said it before every tournament they qualify for, and then they always disappoint in a way. But this Croatia team, even if they haven't won maybe the A trophy that they deserve, because I think the final in 2018, the semi-final in 2022, this final again, they certainly maybe deserved at least one piece of silverware, but they have maybe more of a winning mentality maybe than the Serbian. The Serbians seem to implode at some points.
Yeah, I'm not going into this minefield of Croatia versus
Serbia.
Serbia. These people get really angry.
Like, for example, before the penalty shootout on Sunday night, right?
Well, does Novak Djokovic have a winning mentality?
No, he does, but then it's hard to explain why Croatia have been so successful without being successful, and Serbia not.
Right.
With so much talent in the Serbia team too, for example. But before the penalty shootout on Sunday, considering that Spain had lost to Italy at the Euros in the semi-final, to Morocco at the last 16 at the Euros,
to Russia in 2018,
and Croatia are the kings of pens, beating Brazil and Japan at the last World Cup. You would have felt, okay, Croatia are going to win this, and I'm sure going into it, the Croatians felt, okay, we've been here before, let's do the same again. We're going to do it. And this time they didn't, and it was the reverse where Spain finally won a penalty shootout that mattered, and Croatia didn't.
I was struck, and if you haven't had a chance, go watch the penalty sequence because it's mostly all really well taken penalties. And I was also struck by the number of penalties that went right under the crossbar.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something. Normally you see the placing one or the other. We have to have a shout out to Unai Simon.
Yeah.
Because
two really good saves.
And again, you can, you used to say, oh well, if you miss a penalty, it's always a miss, and it's never the goalkeeper saving it. I think when it comes to penalty shootouts, it's a more level playing field because you don't have specialists. I agree. If you're the specialist penalty taker and you don't score in a game, fine. But once you get to number 4, 5, 6, those guys aren't necessarily specialists. I think this also really matters for, to go back to what we said about Spain, for De La Fuente establishing credibility. I am still left with the fact that this is still a team that produces so much talent in certain roles and so little talent in others. And I'm not just picking on the fact that they have to import center backs from France. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Okay, fill me in. What's Lenormand's story? Is he? I know the Laporte story. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, similar for Lenormand, to be fair. And
is he Basque too?
He's not Basque, but he arrived very young at Real Sociedad, so it counts.
Like very young, he must have been at least 16. Otherwise, it would have been illegal for him to go to Real Sociedad.
Yeah, probably believe 16 or maybe even a little bit later, maybe 17. But enough for him to qualify for Spanish passport and citizenship.
So kind of like what we did with Georgie.
Yes, exactly, like that. But
except,
younger,
except we naturalize playmakers from Brazil, and Spain have to naturalize center backs.
Because otherwise they're left with Eric Garcia, who clearly cannot play at that level. But I find it amazing that the two center backs are French, and that they love Spain, of course, and I think Spain has been very good to them, to welcoming them, and etc. etc. But I remember seeing Aymeric Laporte the day that he kind of announced that he was going to go for Spain because he was snubbed so much by France.
By Didier Deschamps. By somebody specifically, the first name and the last name,
And he was gutted because I think originally both of them would have wanted to play for France. If you don't play for France or you can't play for your country, then obviously you look at other options, and it's completely fair to them, and they love Spain, and now they're completely integrated and they're even winning things. But yeah, I'm amazed because I'm like, okay, with Jordi Alba and Jesus Navas and Unai Simon, you speak Spanish, right? Fair enough. But between them, do you think that sometimes they're just like, it's easy to speak French just like that? I'm amazed. Or do they speak Spanish together?
Yeah, I would assume. I would assume they probably speak Spanish just so unless they're making fun of their teammates. But
Yeah, you think so? Jesus Navas, first player ever to win the World Cup, the Euros, and the Nations League. Good for him. I know you don't like those kind of useless, pointless stats, but I love them, especially at his age, 37. And one thing that bugged me on Sunday night, the Dani Carvajal penalty is not a panenka. He didn't win it on a panenka. It's a shot that is a soft touch that goes under the bar, to go back to the point that Gab, you were making earlier. But it's not a panenka. A panenka is a very specific way of taking your pen with a dink where you deceive the goalkeeper. There's no deceiving in what Carvajal did. So for all the people who said, great to win it on a panenka, sorry, it was not a panenka.
Yeah, I think people use panenka for any kind of dink. And listen, a few years ago, I went and I decided to go and speak to the person who invented the panenka. Panenka himself. I went to Prague. We did a whole piece on him. We had him look at a bunch of penalties on YouTube that were panenkas, and he rated them and said, "No, this is not a panenka. This is." And there are certain very specific things about the kind of run up that you take and so on for it to be a panenka. And yes, this is most definitely not a panenka. So please, just because it's a cool.
But well done, Dani Carvajal, because you still have to go and win it for your team. Well, that's a great pen.
You know what's funny about Dani Carvajal? I'm so used to seeing him in a Real Madrid shirt that seeing him in a Spain shirt.
You didn't recognize him.
I was like, what's he doing? Why? What is he playing dress up? No, I know. He plays in Manchester, Spain.
Unai Simon, just to finish, great saves. But even with the rule of you have to keep your feet on the line, so you don't get a keeper that is a yard or two ahead of his line when the penalty is taken. He's got long legs to the point that you saw that on the Petkovic, the second save, the Petkovic one, where he's still a yard ahead of his line, and yet he still has the other leg behind the line. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, that's taking it to another level.
I think that's good, but I think that's actually
That's the technique that they will all develop, I guess.
yeah. I think that's actual technique, and young goalkeepers out there. I wish Shaka was with us too, because I'm sure Shaka does have long legs too. Because
But do you see what I mean? Did you notice?
well, if
that
you
was
watched it on
incredible?
television, like it looked like the referee said, "Well, wait a minute."
Yeah,
Speaking of VAR,
definitely.
like he must have been off his line.
Yeah.
And I was watching on Italian TV, and the commentator's like, "Oh, they might have to take this again because he looked way off his line."
Yeah.
And it's like, no, he's got this like one trailing
Incredible.
elastic leg behind him.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.